During the springtime of 1992, upon the fractured saline plains of what was formerly the fourth biggest inland body of water globally, a local administrator named Adar Askarovich Idijanov arrived at the shoreline accompanied by a caravan of heavy transport vehicles. These vehicles were not laden with specialized gear. They were not transporting researchers or specialists. They were packed with loose earth, regular loose earth, gathered from the arid landscape during the journey. Furthermore, the administrator's strategy, the exact strategy that caused him to be ridiculed away from conferences in the primary city, the one that global advisors had labeled unachievable, the one that researchers publishing in local periodicals had labeled a squandering of effort, was to heap that loose earth over 13 kilometers of exposed liquid until he had constructed a barrier to seal a breach at the base of one of the most immense ecological catastrophes globally. He possessed no cement, no structural support, no academic qualification in design. He possessed several hundred laborers, a collection of heavy transport vehicles, and a fragment of basic logic that, according to everyone in the global academic sphere, was virtually guaranteed to collapse. During the initial several years, the barrier genuinely functioned. The liquid level on its northern flank commenced ascending. The salt concentration commenced decreasing. Aquatic life, which had been practically eliminated from those depths for more than a 10-year span, began appearing once more. Individuals who had forsaken their maritime settlements began warily returning. Subsequently, during the springtime of 1999, an overflow shattered the barrier completely. 2 individuals perished attempting to rescue it. The liquid emptied back into the arid wasteland it had originated from. Multiple years of advancement vanished within the duration of one lone evening. That ought to have concluded the narrative. It did not. Since what those unsuccessful vehicles of loose earth had demonstrated to the designers who examined the debris, to the World Bank representatives who ultimately participated, to the Kazakh administration that was preparing to enact a choice exceedingly few administrations would have enacted, was a concept virtually no one in the global sphere had been prepared to accept. The Aral Sea was not lifeless. The academic consensus was incorrect. The inland body of water desired to recover. It merely required a barrier that would not shatter. 6 years subsequently, upon a blistering August dawn in 2005, the Kazakh administration concluded constructing precisely that barrier. 13 kilometers of packed soil, strengthened with cement, featuring a 9-portal overflow channel engineered explicitly to endure the overflows that had destroyed the initial version. The barrier is named the Kok-Aral Dam. Moreover, what occurred to the liquid on its northern flank throughout the following 20 years stands as one of the most silently extraordinary structural and biological narratives of our current era. Furthermore, what I intend to share with you presently is one of the most peculiar and rarely recognized ecological revivals in the contemporary globe. The Aral Sea, previously an interior ocean nearly the dimensions of Ireland, subsequently the location of one of the most disastrous anthropogenic biological failures in documented chronicles, and presently, regarding its northern portion, amid a restoration that has, according to every accessible metric, exceeded its own academic forecasts by multiple years. The most recent peer-assessed statistics released during early 2025 by the Kazakh Ministry of Water Resources and verified by the World Bank indicates that the liquid elevations and liquid capacity goals that researchers had forecasted for the year 2029 were achieved alternatively during early 2025, 4 years prior to the timeline. Furthermore, the restoration is, as this is being documented, continuously speeding up. Remain attentive, because what this solitary barrage has exposed regarding how fractured natural networks genuinely recover when we permit them to, is a concept that genuinely transforms how we ought to be conceptualizing ecological rehabilitation across the globe. Allow me to commence with what the Aral Sea represented, because to comprehend the restoration, you must comprehend the failure. The Aral Sea rests within a massive sunken basin upon the boundary dividing contemporary Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan within the center of Central Asia. Throughout the majority of documented chronicles, it remained the fourth biggest inland body of water globally. 68,000 square kilometers of pure and slightly salty liquid, approximately the dimensions of the Republic of Ireland. It was nourished by two of the massive waterways of Central Asia, the Syr Darya streaming inward from the northeastern direction via Kazakhstan, the Amu Darya streaming inward from the southeastern direction via Uzbekistan. Both waterways transported melted snow from the Pamir and Tian Shan mountains, several of the highest peaks within Asia, downward over 1,000 kilometers of grassland and arid landscape toward the massive interior ocean at the lowest point of the depression. Throughout thousands of years, this represented an operational, fruitful biological network. The Aral sustained a massive corporate maritime harvesting sector. Municipalities such as Aralsk upon the northern coastline within Kazakhstan and Muinak upon the southern coastline within Uzbekistan stood as flourishing provincial harbors. The maritime armadas operating from those dual ports captured roughly between 40 and 60,000 tons of aquatic life annually, sustaining tens of thousands of incomes and nourishing a substantial fraction of the Central Asian nutritional intake. Subsequently, commencing during the 1950s, the Soviet administration determined that Central Asia would cultivate woven fiber. Not a portion of woven fiber, the entirety of the woven fiber. The Soviet Union desired to become completely independent regarding woven fiber cultivation, and the balmy, radiant, rich earth of the Central Asian waterway mouths represented, according to Moscow's estimation, the flawless location to achieve it. The initiative was labeled Pale Treasure, and throughout the subsequent 30 years, Soviet designers constructed one of the most massive farming moisture redirection networks in human chronicles. More than 30,000 kilometers of watering channels, 45 massive barrages, 80 storage basins, engineered to extract liquid from the Syr Darya and the Amu Darya and route it toward woven fiber plantations. The structural design constituted, within the mechanical definition of the term, a colossal accomplishment. It simultaneously represented one of the most disastrously inadequately implemented watering initiatives within contemporary chronicles. The majority of the channels constituted unsealed ditches excavated across shifting arid earth. They lacked cement bases, they lacked shields. Liquid cascaded into them at the initial point, absorbed into the terrain via the flanks, vaporized from the surface, and reached the woven fiber plantations at the terminal point at, according to several peer-assessed calculations, roughly between 25% and 75% of the initial volume. Tens of cubic kilometers of pure liquid disappeared into Central Asia's arid landscapes annually, prior to ever contacting a woven fiber crop. The Aral Sea had been obtaining, typically, roughly 56 cubic kilometers of pure liquid annually via its dual waterways. Approaching the 1980s, during arid periods, the influx had plummeted to almost nothing. The inland body of water was shedding more liquid through vaporization than it was obtaining via its waterways. Annually, the disparity expanded. What occurred subsequently represents a classic illustration of what environmentalists label a compounding cycle. As the inland body of water shed liquid, it became less deep. Less deep liquid warms more rapidly under the solar rays, signifying it vaporizes more rapidly, signifying the inland body of water becomes additionally less deep, signifying it vaporizes additionally more rapidly. The mechanism quickens upon itself. Furthermore, as the liquid vanished, the sodium that had been suspended within it possessed no destination. The salt concentration escalated. Approaching the concluding 1990s, sections of what remained regarding the Southern Depression had attained salt concentrations near 100 grams per liter, approximately triple the salt concentration of oceanic liquid. Virtually zero organisms could survive within liquid possessing such saltiness. The aquatic life perished. The maritime harvesting sector imploded. Furthermore, During 1987, the liquid plummeted to such an extent that the inland body of water divided into two distinct aquatic entities. A compact inland body of water within the northern sector inside Kazakhstan, nourished by the Syr Darya, a more massive, less deep, more rapidly fading inland body of water within the southern sector inside Uzbekistan, nourished by whatever minimal liquid continuously traversed via the Amu Darya's depleted pathways. Subsequently arrived the airborne soil. 60,000 square kilometers of previous underwater terrain parched, roasted beneath the solar rays, and transformed into an immense, novel, arid landscape. Researchers designated it the Aral Kum, yet this did not constitute regular arid earth. This represented the base of an inland body of water that had been gathering farming drainage throughout 30 years. Chemical deterrents, growth enhancers, leaf stripping agents originating from the woven fiber sector, dense elements, the entirety of it roasted into a hardened layer of sodium and harmful substances multiple centimeters deep. Whenever the breezes intensified, and across the Aral Kum the breezes intensify frequently, that harmful, hardened layer became propelled upward into the air. Based upon peer-assessed research, between 14 and 27 million tons of airborne soil became catapulted upward into the sky from the parched oceanic base annually. Investigators have identified Aral Kum airborne soil at distances reaching the Arctic and the Himalayas. The populations residing within the municipalities encircling the previous ocean were inhaling it continuously. Frequencies of breathing illness, renal illness, and newborn passing within the impacted regions escalated to rank among the most elevated across the entirety of the previous Soviet Union. Approaching the concluding 1980s, the global academic sphere had primarily dismissed the Aral completely. The terminology that surfaced within scholarly documents and World Bank evaluations was surrendered territory. A segment of the globe that was merely destined to fade away and that zero structural initiative could practically rescue. This returns us toward that 1992 dawn and the caravan of heavy transport vehicles at the border of the liquid. The administrator and his structural group had deduced a concept that virtually nobody at the global tier had taken the effort to examine meticulously. The North Aral and the South Aral, notwithstanding remaining materially linked via that slender passage titled the Berg Strait, genuinely represented two entirely distinct dilemmas. The south remained massive, not deep, and relied upon the Amu Darya, a waterway that was being virtually completely devoured by Uzbekistan's woven fiber plantations, and that zero Kazakh designer possessed any pragmatic capacity to alter. That flank of the inland body of water was, within pragmatic diplomatic contexts, destined to continuously fade. However, the north represented a contrasting narrative. The north remained more profound. It remained more compact. It continuously possessed the Syr Darya streaming inward toward it. The waterway remained reduced, battered downward by multiple decades of elevated watering, yet it was continuously supplying liquid. The dilemma remained that each droplet of Syr Darya liquid that contacted the northern depression was coursing directly south via the Berg Strait, dispersing outward over the massive, not deep, southern depression and vaporizing into nothingness. The north constituted, according to the designer's personal depiction, a washing vessel featuring the exhaust remaining unplugged. The spout remained active. The liquid remained flowing inward. It was merely entirely coursing directly out the base. The resolution, within theory, remained almost awkwardly straightforward. Seal the exhaust. That initial heavy transport vehicle barrier during 1992 represented the verification of theory. It functioned momentarily throughout several years. The liquid ascended, the sodium decreased, aquatic life resurfaced. Subsequently, during 1999, the springtime melted snow from the Tian Shan Mountains cascaded along the Syr Darya within an overflow more massive than anybody had anticipated. Furthermore, the barrier, constructed from purely heaped loose earth, became merely breached from above. The disintegration claimed the lives of 2 of the laborers who had remained at the location attempting to strengthen it. Furthermore, the liquid cascaded backward toward the southern depression and vaporized. That disappointment represents what, through my interpretation of the narrative, genuinely rescued the Aral, because the debris of the loose earth barrier demonstrated to designers who had formerly rejected the concept that the fundamental mechanics had remained accurate. The inland body of water had reacted. The liquid had returned. The biology had commenced to rehabilitate. The barrier merely required to be constructed adequately. During 2001, the Kazakh administration, accompanied by an $86 million credit via the World Bank, officially pledged to constructing a lasting addition. Assembly commenced. The barrage became designated the Kok-Aral. It stretched 13 kilometers in distance, crafted from packed soil strengthened with cement, and constructed explicitly to endure the variety of springtime overflow that had ruined its precursor. The crucial architectural element represented a 9-portal overflow channel, a sequence of automated overflow barriers possessing the capacity of discharging upwards of 600 cubic meters of liquid every single second. Whenever the Syr Darya swells featuring melted snow, the portals unseal. The surplus liquid becomes permitted to course securely south toward the fading southern depression, alternatively to accumulating at the rear of the barrage and fracturing it. That identical portal network additionally fulfills a secondary function. Whenever it unseals, it expels gathered sodium away from the northern depression, preserving the molecular composition stable. The Kok-Aral Dam became finalized during August of 2005. What occurred subsequently was, according to every accessible academic forecast, not meant to occur following the schedule it occurred upon. The Kazakh moisture specialists directing the initiative had estimated that alongside the barrage established, the liquid elevation within the northern depression would attain the objective height of 42 meters above the Baltic Sea baseline standard within 3 to 5 years. They remained, according to the phrasing of one Ministry of Water Resources declaration, incorrect. The liquid within the Northern Aral ascended toward the objective elevation within roughly 7 months. The coastline, which during the period of the barrage's finalization had withdrawn roughly 40 kilometers away from the municipality of Aralsk, commenced to progress toward the north following a velocity that orbital photography managed to identify month following month. Furthermore, subsequently, alongside zero anthropogenic introducing, zero planting, zero organic meddling of any sort, the aquatic life returned. This represents the segment of the narrative I deem genuinely the most extraordinary, since it exposes what the environment genuinely enacts whenever you return to it the parameters it requires to operate. Prior to the barrage, the salt concentration of the North Aral had attained roughly 30 grams per liter, approximately the identical amount as oceanic liquid. The solitary breed that managed to continuously endure within those parameters represented the Black Sea flatfish, a saline liquid aquatic creature that had been purposefully planted during the 1970s, explicitly since it managed to endure the deteriorating molecular composition. Indigenous categories, specifically zander, freshwater bream, koi relatives, common roach, and freshwater asp, had remained absent from the exposed inland body of water across multiple decades. They remained gripping onto survival solely within the compact purified cavities located at the exact opening of the Syr Darya estuary. Following the barrage, as the waterway persisted to cascade pure liquid inward to the presently enclosed depression, the salt concentration plummeted. Approaching the preliminary 2010s, it had decreased to ranging between 8 and 10 grams per liter, fundamentally what the Aral's molecular composition had represented prior to the Soviet redirection initiatives commencing. Furthermore, at that salt concentration boundary, beneath roughly 10 grams per liter, the indigenous aquatic life categories are able to reproduce. Their embryos are able to endure. Their hatchlings are able to mature. Based upon the Kazakh State Water Enterprise, 22 indigenous aquatic life categories possess presently reverted toward the Northern Aral independently. They traveled outward from the Syr Darya estuary, where they had remained clinging on to existence barely, and repopulated the exposed liquid as the molecular composition reverted. The Zander, the most economically prized category, transitioned from practically eliminated within the exposed inland body of water toward the prevailing economic harvest. The flatfish, the sodium-enduring survivor of the lifeless years, commenced to diminish. It represented currently a saline liquid aquatic creature within a pure liquid environment, becoming surpassed by the indigenous types that had adapted for these liquids. The aquatic life, as the aquatic life reverted, attracted the avians. Tall grass clusters germinated alongside the novel coastline. Pale pelicans commenced navigating above liquid that 10 years previously had represented a saline plain. Based upon the most updated Kazakh biological assessments, beyond 300 avian categories represent currently utilizing the rehabilitated Syr Darya estuary, acting as breeding and traveling territory. Upon the terrain, the reappearance of liquid and flora has become verified to sustain the reappearance of untamed swine, timber wolves, and the severely threatened saiga grazing creatures, one of the most uncommon massive warm-blooded animals within Central Asia. The tall grass clusters alongside the coastline commence to operate, acting as an organic shield that captures dampness and obstructs minimally a portion of the harmful airborne soil tempests that had remained tearing across the territory throughout 30 years. The provincial weather pattern has quantifiably moderated. Dampness has escalated. The maritime harvesting sector within the northern Kazakh zone has transitioned from nothing, absolutely zero economic harvest, toward roughly 8,000 tons annually. There exist currently 12 aquatic life refining facilities within a territory that possessed zero. The quantity of enrolled maritime harvesters has transitioned from beneath 500 toward beyond 3,000. Furthermore, subsequently, and this represents the specific element that I perceive as genuinely touching, the citizens commenced to revert. Within the compact maritime harvesting settlement of Tastubek upon the novel northern coastline, the quantity of occupied residences has tripled throughout the previous 10-year span. Youthful households who had relocated toward Almaty, the nation's most massive municipality, seeking employment following the maritime harvesting sector's imploding during the 1980s, commenced relocating backward toward their ancestors' municipalities. Within countryside Central Asia, wherein the population narrative throughout the previous 40 years has remained virtually completely regarding citizens departing toward the municipalities, this remains virtually unprecedented. It constitutes a backward relocation. Citizens remain electing to revert toward a location that 20 years previously was becoming formally analyzed by global organizations, acting as an irreversible ecological deficit. Based upon the most updated statistics, the aggregate capacity of liquid within the North Aral possesses presently attained 27 cubic kilometers, a 42% expansion from the point it rested whenever the barrage became finalized. The exterior expanse possesses broadened toward beyond 3,000 square kilometers. Furthermore, the Kazakh administration and the World Bank possess presently pledged toward a secondary stage of the initiative planned regarding finalization, ranging between 2026 and 2029, that shall elevate the Kok-Aral Dam by an extra 2 meters, broaden the exterior expanse of the North Aral toward roughly 4,000 square kilometers, and propel the aggregate liquid capacity toward 34 cubic kilometers. The strategy represents to transport the coastline backward toward the historic port barriers of Aralsk, personally regarding the initial occasion within beyond 50 years. I desire to remain truthful regarding what this narrative fails to resolve, since the truthful rendition remains genuinely significant. The Aral Sea, as it functioned during 1960, remains not reverting. The 68,000 square kilometers of initial inland body of water remains vanished, and the majority of it remains vanished irreversibly. The southern Aral, upon the Uzbek flank of the barrage, persisted to fade across the complete duration that the northern Aral been rehabilitating. During 2014, the eastern portion of the South Aral vaporized entirely. Within its location, Uzbekistan possesses commenced boring for combustible vapor within what formerly represented underwater terrain. The diplomatic and financial motivations that propelled the initial failure, the reliance of Central Asian farming upon liquid-demanding harvests such as woven fiber, the inheritance of unsealed Soviet epic channels, the absence of synchronized liquid distribution dividing the upper and lower nations remain considerably established. The Amu Darya remains continuously depleted completely prior to it accessing the Southern Depression. The Southern Aral remains, according to every metric, vanished. What the Kok-Aral Dam possesses demonstrated represents a concept additionally restricted and additionally beneficial compared to a complete rehabilitation. It has demonstrated that a segment of a biological network that global organizations had previously categorized acting as an irreversible deficit could, genuinely, become reactivated utilizing a solitary action positioned at the solitary crucial location within the network. Absent billions of dollars, absent advanced machinery, utilizing one barrier positioned at the correct location that performed precisely one function. Retained the liquid within a profound, slender depression, alternatively to permitting it to disperse over a not deep arid landscape and vaporize. The more profound takeaway concealed within this narrative, I perceive, represents one that I discover genuinely beneficial, acting as a context regarding the broader inquiry of ecological rehabilitation within this 100-year span. We lean to presume that repairing whatever we possess fractured necessitates additional structural design, additional action, additional brilliance. The Aral Sea rehabilitation implies a concept additionally straightforward and additionally difficult. Occasionally, the most potent fragment of structural design fails to represent the most complicated one. Occasionally, it represents merely a barrier positioned at the correct location. Occasionally, the inquiry fails to represent what novel network possessed the capacity we to construct. However, what one particular element possesses become fractured and possess the capacity we to repair that one particular element. The barrage failed to transport the aquatic life backward. The barrage failed to populate the inland body of water. The barrage failed to reseed the tall grass clusters or rehabilitate the avian demographics or stimulate the maritime harvesting commerce. The barrage executed one function. It retained the liquid exactly where the liquid required to reside. Furthermore, the biological network, which remains additionally tolerant and additionally competent compared to what we typically offer it acknowledgement regarding, executed everything remaining. During 1992, a local administrator accompanied by a collection of heavy transport vehicles and a fragment of basic logic became mocked regarding attempting to seal the exhaust upon a fading ocean. 20 years subsequently, the structural institution that mocked him possesses constructed utilizing cement and soil exactly the barrier he remained attempting to construct utilizing loose earth. The liquid remains ascending, the aquatic life remains reproducing, the municipalities remain repopulating, and the goals that researchers forecasted regarding the year 2029 remain becoming attained alternatively 4 years prematurely. The Aral Sea, operating as an entirety, remains not reverting. However, the segment that remains reverting remains executing it more rapidly compared to anyone forecasted utilizing a more compact financial plan, compared to anyone believed achievable utilizing academics that materialized to represent significantly more straightforward compared to the global sphere had presumed. That represents, according to any truthful calculation, a variety of triumph meriting awareness regarding